everyone, to another podcast session here at High Level called the High Level Spotlight Session. I've got a special guest today, Brandon Wong. Brandon and I have met over the years, interacted plenty of times in person as well as online. He's someone that I respect quite a bit for a lot of the things that he's done and work, and he's also a military veteran. But let me help you understand who he is real quick. He has the real estate knowledge on top of everything that we're going to talk about today, and he's helped raise millions of dollars, acquire commercial real estate through something called the Smart Syndicator, powered by Go High Level. And he's a general partner as well in a $40 million real estate and technology. And it played it's a fund, I believe, right? And you played a big role in that as well. And you have community and, things that you interact with over 2,800 veterans. And I think it's called the Veteran Circles, if I can remember correctly, Brandon. Thanks for jumping in and saying yes to me. I knew I wanted to do a podcast session with you, and excited to finally get you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us your story. Tell us your journey from being a Marine Corps officer to entrepreneur. I feel like it's such a structured environment to the most unstructured environment I could think of. But help us understand your story a little bit, and then we'll go into the talking point we have planned, which is building a location independent business as an entrepreneur, right? So we'll talk about that.
Mhm.
But before, help us understand your story, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. So really my entrepreneurial journey started when I was in Iraq. I remember it very vividly. I was in the middle of a sandstorm and I was reading a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad that a buddy of mine had lent to me before I deployed. And that was really my light bulb, my matrix moment where I was like, holy crap, the world is very different than I thought it was. And so I vowed when I got back and get out of the military, I would start investing in real estate. And so I jumped in I did just that. I jumped in with both feet, started buying property at the foreclosure auction with some partners. I put some money together and just started, learning those lessons early on. And I made a lot of mistakes. Learned from those mistakes. I've paid, I call it tuition with the mistakes I've made. But I've
You
also
paid the
paid
dues.
professionals. Yeah, I've paid, tens of thousands of dollars to gurus to teach me, how to not make those mistakes. And so, fast forward to 2017, I started investing passively in apartment complexes as a limited partner. And then, fast forward to 2021, I started investing as a general partner. So I became, on the management team, that sort of thing. And during this process, I'd always, as sort of a supplementary business, and I've always had kind of a passion for technology. I was running an agency that was running lead generation for mortgage and real estate professionals. So I generated tens of thousands of leads in that space, and helped a lot of people close a lot of business, and wanted to really focus and start building more towards the syndication model in terms of investing in real estate. And what that means is that instead of using my own capital or maybe one or two investors on a deal, I would be able to raise capital from multiple, like 30, 40 investors and take down really large properties. And so that's part of becoming a general partner is, in addition to doing asset management, that sort of thing, I was raising capital as well. And I really leveraged the technology that I had developed on top of Go High Level in my agency to do that. And we were able to, my team and I raised $2 million for our first couple of deals. And I was a lot, that's when another light bulb went off. And I was like, holy crap, if this worked so well for me, I could probably help other syndicators too, and part of transitioning out of the military where veterans, I feel, struggle, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this later, but where they struggle sometimes is just that sense of purpose that goes away when they get out. And I believe entrepreneurship is the best way to rediscover a new purpose and continue to serve. It's just you're serving the marketplace now. You're not really necessarily serving your country or going to war, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that's sort of short version of my journey.
Yeah. And well, first of all, before we go further into the conversation, I just want to say thank you for your service.
Yeah, not a problem.
I don't think veterans in general get enough thank you. So at least I want to just do my part because you contribute quite a bit to our freedoms, and especially in the U.S. and America. And I remember, Brandon, as a child, I think I was like 8, 9 years old, um, and Desert Storm was happening, and I was growing up in India, missionary family, and I remember my dad and mom playing like VHS videos, replay videos of the entire war. We would literally watch Desert Storm for hours in on video back in the day. And it's like these mini TVs, and it's like black and white. You can't see everything. You see like the green like lights. And I always thought it was I've always felt like that's the most difficult job anybody could ever do is serve their country. So I appreciate you doing that. And at a young age, I was pretty intrigued by that concept. Now, I never had the courage to do what you did. And entrepreneurship and business was like the next layer of risk for me in my mind. Like I have a hard time putting my life on the line versus, okay, let me put everything else on the line. So I assume your stress on business is not real stress compared to what you went through in your military experiences. Can you help us understand your journey, your beginning stages of your businesses? Maybe a couple of them that you launched or you closed up or whatever. Like, what does the first like couple of years of entrepreneurship look like? Because I think transitioning from being a military personnel and officer to being an entrepreneur in the common market is such a difficult thing to do, I assume. I don't know anything about it. I would love to understand those periods of your life.
And I think a couple of the things that uh, made it a smoother transition for me, and I imagine for some other veterans, is coming out of the military, you have a tolerance for ambiguity. You have the ability to develop SOPs, which is short for standard operating procedures, which are the hallmark of a successful franchise business. And so you come out kind of equipped with those core skill sets. And then, it takes a little bit of courage to join the military. So you tend to have a little more courage when it comes to taking risks. Um, and so for me, if I could talk to my, 22-year-old self, a little time machine, I would say, hey, the first thing I would say is, buy a fourplex, live in one of the units, and let the tenants pay down your mortgage, and then rinse and repeat that over and over. But additionally, I would say determine what it is puts you in a state of flow, something that you enjoy doing. For those who are not familiar with the concept, it's an activity that you do that you could do for hours and not be paid for it necessarily, and it just time tends to just slow down around you when you're doing that. And what you've identified at that point is sort of something you're passionate about, and I think you can build a business around that because you're already doing it. And so consider trying to identify what that core passion is and transition into building a business for it, making money. You'd be surprised the things that people are interested in, and like underwater basket weaving. I mean, I'm sure there's entire YouTube channels to building baskets, and these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs make tons of money doing it. So even if your passion is super weird, you're not the only weird person. you know.
Well, I think also as we kind of dive into this session, what I want to focus on is building a location independent business as a high level entrepreneur. I mean, the first
Mhm.
discussion point, like you just said, is defining maybe the entrepreneur's passion properly, right? The
Right.
second is going, I want you to talk about your experience
Mhm.
going from a traditional agency to evolving into a investor essentially with like your own SaaS play that you had, right? And
Mhm.
the third thing maybe is like building and leveraging the communities around you, the groups and the interactions and the people around this whole journey. So let's talk about the first thing, defining the entrepreneur's passion properly. You shared a few notes here, but how do we get to the conclusion of like, okay, this is what I love doing? Like, how do you get there
Mhm.
when you are just in the early stages?
Yeah, if you're, it's it's challenging if you don't know, um, what it is that lights your fire, if you will. Um, but uh, yeah, I'm trying to think if you don't already know what that is, what the path is. I mean, associating and getting out there and associating with other people until you find that thing, just trying different activities. Um, Now the transition to the business side is, are there conventions around what it is that you're passionate about? Because if there's large conventions of, 100, 200, 1,000 people that can converge and get together to talk about this specific topic, then there's a very high probability that you can build a business around it, particularly an online business. And for me, with, having a passion for real estate, I knew uh, it was pretty obvious that there were conventions, there were real estate investment summits, there were, wholesaling classes and things you could take. There was a very large market. So in order to get some type of preliminary market validation before you build your business and build your product is, are there a large enough, numbers of a large enough target market for you? Is there a large enough target market for you to get started? And so in the real estate side, um, marketing is a great kind of foot in the door if you want to learn the business, because particularly in the brokerage space, marketing is everything. That's how you get clients. That's how you get buyers and sellers in real estate. And so I was running ads for myself. I took some courses a long time ago to learn how to run Facebook ads and started running them for myself. And then that was enough validation for me. If, whenever I can do something for myself, I know I can do it on behalf of other people and get paid to do it. And so that's how I started my agency. And I served a lot of loan officers and real estate agents. And when I first got started, I was using a ton of different technologies. So I had a ClickFunnels account, I had Active Campaign, I had a couple of other different things I was sort of duct taping together. And then one day somebody had mentioned GHL to me, and so I was skeptical for sure at first. But I signed up for a trial account, and before I make a big decision like transitioning to another platform, I would take a funnel that I built in ClickFunnels and then build a replica one for one exactly the same in the other platform, and I was able to do that in GHL, and I was like, that's all the validation I need. I'm switching, you know. And so I got rid of ClickFunnels, I got rid of all this other stuff. Like literally, if you can achieve the same exact result, but consolidate everything, it just made good business sense for me at the time. And so I developed my agency as I was developing my real estate business. And when I transitioned into syndication, into raising capital, I in the beginning I sort of struggled because a lot of the investors in my database, they didn't I hadn't spoken to them in a really long time, like some of them in like 10 years. And I was kind of hodgepodge, just calling people out of the blue. The conversations were super awkward. They're like, what's this about? They didn't know what it was about. They didn't really know anything about multifamily or any commercial real estate for that matter. And so it was really a lot of kind of brain damage and saying, answering the same questions over and over. And I was like, I know how to use this GHL system pretty good. Let me try to develop a system around that, that I can use on my next deal. And so I started building a profile, building an account that would have a series of text messages, email templates, everything that I needed. And then I developed the workflows to make everything work properly. So I was my first beta tester on that. So on my first couple of deals, my team and we raised $2 million for our first couple of deals. And I was like, this works, and if it works for me, it can work for other people. So that is where I started to recognize the opportunity in the SaaS space. And
Yeah. So at this point
yeah,
you're
go ahead.
evolving. So at this point you're like, okay, I understand the industry, which is real estate. You start going to conventions, masterminds,
Mhm.
kind of rubbing shoulders with people in similar spaces, building relationships, trying to figure out what's the expertise. Then you realize marketing and sales is like the fuel to the fire. So you develop
Mhm.
marketing skills and then you built an agency. Then you're like, okay, there's more to this. Let me consolidate all in one place, obviously with HighLevel, but then you realize you can evolve into, I guess, a SaaSpreneur of some kind or something
Mhm.
around a productized
Right.
service, So how? help us understand from going from like, okay, I raised $2 million. Now, how do I leverage, I guess, snapshots and workflows into creating
Right.
a system, right? Like, help us
Hmm.
understand that.
Yeah. So the initial raise that we did, it was really just testing and building out workflows and and using texting and messaging that actually worked. Like we tested a couple of different things, and that was our test bed. So once we actually completed the raise, I looked at all that I had built and I was like, I have a system here that works and it's proven now. So I can use that in my marketing. Like, hey, I'm not just, a random dude with who signed up for GHL and tried to figure this out. It's like I've done it. And if you've been somewhere, you can take someone else there. And so that I developed a snapshot. I've developed, and it's on version like 9 now. We've gone through so many iterations because as more and more people use your system, you find ways to optimize. You find ways to really evolve and make the system easier to use, and just create value for them. And that's been the big thing is listening to my customers. You might think they want it to be a certain way, but if you don't ask them, you'll never know. And I still like to do my own a lot of the onboarding. I'll do onboarding calls. A lot of times I like to do them myself because I want feedback. I want to get that intel to make my product better, and then we'll do follow-up calls after that, like what's working, what's not working, and continue to evolve. So that's been a big part of developing the SaaS model. And I took actually your training a while back, and the light bulb went off when you're like, you should just be a utility bill. That shouldn't be something that people have to think like long for a really long time about signing up. You should be able to create so much value in such a short amount of time, and then just be a utility bill moving forward. And I was like, that's how I want to shift my model. And so I shifted from the agency model. We still do some consulting, and we train VAs for people, but I have shifted towards the SaaS model. You know, I think that
Yeah.
that's a better way to do things, and you can help more people because the
Yeah. So
commitment's
help
not
me.
quite as big. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So help me understand the real estate side of this. How does this
Mm-hmm.
benefit your real estate business? Like, you went beyond the initial test bed of $2 million that you raised, but like
Mm-hmm.
how did you leverage something like what High Level has as a systematic tool to
Mm-hmm.
then, in the industry, like creating competitive advantage or, strategies that other people cannot really like test?
Yeah, it sounds funny, but most people don't even really email their databases, and so we've developed a series like a 1 year template series of templates that they can really just enroll their people in. I usually recommend to make some modifications to them, but that's step one is really to get their email sequence in play. And then step two is getting that an initial touch point of a text message. So we've developed a model where it really just they push play and it creates opportunities, creates appointments for them. That helps them book appointments because really the technology is never a replacement for that face-to-face contact. It's really just an augment. It's a supplementary way to get more face-to-face time. You know, at least in this industry, we're not selling info product, or the users are not selling info product necessarily, and so they need that FaceTime or that one-to-many FaceTime of where they're marketing a webinar or something to that effect. And coming up with that stuff from scratch is challenging for most people, particularly if they're not tech savvy enough to figure it out. So we've taken probably 6 months off of their startup time or their build time if they want to implement the technology, and done a lot of that heavy lifting for them already, and built the SaaS model and the community around that.
Right. So you've taken something that you're passionate about,
Hmm.
developed marketing skills and developed software skills on top of it, then built technology, went back to the market. Now you're providing something extremely valuable at your ninth version of reiteration of the product. Now, help me understand what your mission is at this point. Like, are you in the
Hmm.
in the world of, okay, let me help my fellow veterans or real estate
Hmm.
professionals? Like, how do you turn this into a service now that you have the
Hmm.
technology piece? What, maybe a formulated offer. Like, how did you get to that point of being able to go to market?
Yeah, so the Smart Syndicator product is not necessarily designed for veterans. It specifically, a lot of veterans are using it, but because they are syndicators. Now, I have a specific mastermind for veterans within the veteran circles that we meet once a month in person. That's where I serve to help veterans start and grow their businesses. With the
Wow.
platform, the mission is to really democratize access to private equity, if that
Help me
makes sense. You know, I
understand.
don't.
Yeah, help me
Go ahead.
understand what that means. Because
Hmm.
PE firms, they have all kinds of roles, and it's
Yeah,
quite often a country club, and we hear all these different
right.
things. But like, what are you doing to break those barriers? Because those glass doors, no matter what, exist and they will
Yeah,
forever exist. But like, help us understand what the differentiation is here.
yeah. I mean, I feel like the world shouldn't be ruled by the BlackRocks and the Vanguards of of the world. So I think that individuals, if they're determined, can build their own funds, can build their own, significant pools of capital to take to market to acquire assets, particularly commercial real estate assets. And in terms of how we help them do that is, in addition to the technology and all the automations we've designed, we create an ecosystem where it's sort of a closed group where we meet once a week. We talk about marketing strategy. We talk about different ways to implement strategies on the platform. And then we have a separate tech office hours that we do once a week that if our 24/7 chat doesn't help them out, satisfactory, then we'll, uh, we'll walk through it with them on a Zoom call, you know, and just being able to provide that higher level of service so that they can go raise the money that they need and have the impact that they want.
Yeah, so what you're saying is someone who doesn't even have the marketing eye or the sales experience could kind of plug and play your system because you built all of it
Hmm.
inside high level, put your own IP on top of it. Then now you're supporting them and coaching them, walking them through shoulder to shoulder
Right.
to kind of help them find success. Now, I bet that differentiates you above and beyond many people in the syndicate world. Help me understand what that has done to your brand in general.
Yeah, we've become sort of the go-to for AI and automation in the syndication space, and uh, I did a lot of testing in the market of what people really gravitated towards, and with all the marketing and all the media buzz around AI and automation, we really just set our sails to that wind that was already blowing, and it's been great to help us grow the brand and develop a name for ourselves.
I love that. So the last thing I think we should definitely highlight, I think you had mentioned it, is like the community of high level in general. Like I remember you saying,
Hmm.
hey, a lot of the spaces in marketing in general is like very competitive, very cutthroat. But you come into the high level family, you feel and you see the collaborative culture. And you
Hmm.
highlighted on a point that I've raised my hand and said, yes, I need help. Tom Bristol reached out, or,
Hmm.
Matt DeSano or JC Hyde. Like you've collaborated with so many people in the ecosystem that we have. Help us understand your thought process because building and leveraging an ecosystem for your path with the right support people around you is like the way you can scale and, help us understand how you
Right.
did that.
Well, and just in like in my real estate business, I've had people that I could lean into to really help me out with the SaaS and using the product, and the community has been just really extremely beneficial in that whenever I reached out for help, there was always boom, boom, boom. I put a comment in the group, and then everybody's like jumping in. Some people are trying to sell you something, but a lot of people are just legitimately trying to, hey, like I had that problem. This is how I fixed it. And they'll even like I've had people hop on a Zoom call with me. They didn't charge me anything. They're just like, hey, let me just show you real quick. And I just hadn't experienced that in a lot of other spaces. You know, marketing tends to be sort of cutthroat. I'm going to hold things close to my chest. I'm going to, grow my business. But I think you've attracted a certain type of persona into your ecosystem, and I've benefited greatly from that. And
Yeah.
I see it with just the way you guys run your business. Um, the CE, the founders getting on and commenting in the group or just engaging with customers, like you don't see that a lot in modern companies. They're off on a yacht or they're chilling on a beach somewhere, and they might get to you one day, but you guys are just on top of it and you're constantly engaged. And I think
Yeah.
that's a huge part of it. It's not just technology, it's people that we're getting access to.
Yeah. And I think I've shared this with several people in our community in person. But I think the culture that we have inside of HighLevel is built on humility. And that humility is from our leaders. Like they don't have egos and they're not on a pedestal and there's no ivory tower that you can climb into. Everybody's open, all doors are wide open, all windows are open. There's no titles. And on top of that, we treat our customer the same way. Like whether you are a $300 million agency in front of our desk versus the guy that just read Rich Dad Poor Dad in the Sandstorm, we will treat you the same way across the board. And that culture is, I think, um, the echoing that we see today in all of our events. And funny thing is, other ecosystems built around HighLevel, other Facebook groups, other
Hmm.
communities, other masterminds are you see that resonation. You don't see, you know, the culture of like, hey, my Lambo doors are flipping up, like it's a different world of digital citizens I think we have here. But I appreciate your kind words on it. But I don't even think it was meant to be that way. It was just a lot of the personalities. That's just really how it was. It wasn't like we got together and designed it in a humble way or something. Hey, we'll be the the guys with humility or anything like that. It was just by natural interactions. We cared a lot about the customers and we still do and we forever will. And you kind of did the same thing with your customers. You said, hey, I like to still onboard, spend time with my customers, get intel, understand, and then you go rebuild, and now you have the ninth version of your HighLevel. Can you explain the power of that, the power of staying close to your customers, continuously getting feedback? What does that do for your business in the long term?
Yeah, in the military world, we call that having an entire intel team, military intelligence team that's out there gathering information on the marketplace for you. I've had users say, hey, like there's this other product coming out over here. Put it on your radar. It is something they've approached me, and I'd like to see something like this implemented in yours if it's possible. And so instead of me trying to figure out what people want, build it and they will come, I just go and ask them, what do you want? You know, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out, and it actually makes your development cycle faster and makes you iterate much faster if you're collecting that info. And you learn just as much from the good feedback as you do from the bad. Um, and it just helps you both grow your business, but also just grow as a person and be a better listener. So I think it's extremely important to just listen to your customers and gather both. You'll get information on competitors, you'll get information on pricing, things like that, and you don't need to go hunting it down. It just comes right to you. So it's like having your
Absolutely.
own intel team.
Yeah, absolutely. So, building a location independent business as a entrepreneur, we talked about three things. One is defining the entrepreneur's passion properly. Two is going from, Brandon, you sharing your story of going from that traditional agency to that investor SaaS model. But we also talked about how to leverage the ecosystems around HighLevel. What else would you tell your younger self about this journey?
Get started sooner. I feel like that's probably been said on every one of your podcasts, but like, just go get started sooner. Don't waste time because you'll be so much further along and you'll learn so much faster.
Yeah. So as we kind of close out, Brandon, what are you working on the next couple of quarters? What's in your horizon? Where can people find you? Where are the communities? Where are the masterminds? Help us understand how, especially a lot of the veterans in the group. I think they should connect with you.
Yeah, so I've got two Facebook groups. One is for syndicators. It's the Smart Syndicator Facebook group, and then the other is called Veteran Circles. We have a Dallas Fort Worth chapter. We are local to you. We're in Dallas Fort
Oh,
Worth.
didn't realize.
There's about 2,800 veterans in there, veterans and veteran supporters in there. So if that's something that interests you, we do monthly meetups here in the DFW area, both in Frisco and in Fort Worth. So you can connect us with us there. If you're in the real estate space and you are raising capital, then consider checking out our Smart Syndicator group, and we can stay connected there.
Yep. And final words from you on AI in general. I know you've
Mhm.
built a brand that's kind of now the leader of real estate syndicate, and a lot of it is built on top of HighLevel. But what's your thoughts of where this market is going with relation to AI and real estate?
Yeah, I think it's going to create efficiencies where we didn't have it before, and it's going to permeate every part of real estate, from property management to acquisitions to underwriting. I think everything you can plug AI in there and just instantly get another 30 to 40% efficiency for very low cost. And part of what we do and we teach in our masterminds is the different tools that you want to use and how you want to use them to leverage that and really streamline and optimize your business.
I love that. Well, Brandon, thanks for jumping in, man. I know we rapid fired this whole session. But I think it's really impactful. And those of you that are in our community that's been in the military or are serving currently, I think we even have staff members that are serving as a reserve while we're even chatting. Um, I think everyone's welcome to reach out to you and some of the cool things that you're doing. So we appreciate you doing that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you maybe at one of our events. I know we have masterminds and conferences and all that coming up pretty soon here as well. Looking forward to seeing you in one of those if possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
All right, bye bye now.